What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Atlantic Files, the number one podcast on the number one division in the NBA, brought to you by the Underdog Podcast Network. We're back for week 2 of the NBA, and we had an amazing week 1 filled with great games, great rookies, people being arrested, illegal gambling, and poker games. It's all a great reality TV show. So, without further ado, let's jump into this week's episode.
Welcome to the Atlantic Files, where humor and vibes collide. Nets the Sixers, the king of the court, jokes that hit you one more. Atlantic Division, we own the scene. Comedy, food talk, every routine. Mike Bash, Klaus and Fishbein on the mic, making you laugh every episode right. Game is strong, court to kitchen, we're never wrong. You know what time it is, it's time for the Atlantic Files.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode number 231 of the Atlantic Files. And this week we are talking all the teams in the Atlantic, how their week 1 went, and how they're looking for this coming season. And of course, we have to talk about all these random people being arrested and illegal gambling and illegal poker games and the mafia and all sorts of different things that I don't know about anybody else, but it definitely wasn't on my bingo card. So, with that being said, let's jump into the Atlantic. Now, as of right now, if I bring up some of my notes here, the standings are as follows. As everyone expected, we have the Sixers in first place, still undefeated at the moment at 2-0. And the Knicks were also 2-0 up until Sunday night. They ended up moving to 2-1 after losing to the Heat 115-107. The Raptors are then there at third. They are 1-2 now after losing to the Mavericks in a close 10-point game. I mean, 10 points doesn't sound like it's that close, but most of that game was pretty close outside of like the third quarter. Then the Celtics are 0-3, and the Nets are also 0-3. So, I'm going to give, for this week, I'm going to give my top 10 power rankings, and obviously they're going to be a little weird because we're only 1 week in. We've had some surprising things, not surprising things, so on and so forth. Some teams that are winless that they probably will be perfectly fine in the end. We're gonna, dress it up with a graphic and stuff once I get all of that together for us, and we will go from there. By the way, I also want to make a correction. I said this was episode 231. It's actually 321. Apparently, I just mix up numbers. And so, my top 10 power rankings, we're gonna go from 10 to 1. In 10th, I have the Grizzlies right now. They have some interesting pieces. Colin Coward, guy looks great. I mean, you still have John Moran, you still have Jaren Jackson. You have some good pieces there as it is. And now with the first round pick in the mix, looking like a legit player, I like what we got. Then we take it over to number 9, who I have is the Detroit Pistons. Again, solid team. They're looking to build from their playoff appearance last season. Yeah. I just completely blanked on that last season. They like another season of Cade Cunningham being pretty much amazing. Field goal percentage, it'll get there. It's hovering around like 39.7 at the moment. So yeah, it'll get there. Number 8, we have the Nuggets. Now, I only have them down at number 8. At the time that we're recording this, their Sunday night game was not over. Actually, they didn't play Sunday night. I was thinking about the Lakers. That's my bad. So, yeah, I mean, the Nuggets are the Nuggets. Aaron Gordon looked amazing. Jokic, always amazing. So, plenty of reason to know to believe in the Nuggets as we move forward with the season. Number 7, which is probably the most surprising out of everything, I put the Chicago Bulls because I just like everything the Chicago Bulls have been doing so far. They're 2-0. They just beat the Magic on Saturday, 110-98. Josh Giddey looked good. Trey Jones stepping into the starting lineup and really providing some really good value for them. He was a plus 17 against the Magic. 13 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, 5 steals. He didn't shoot all that well, but got to the line 8 times. I mean, uh, no one really saw that coming out of Trey Jones. Jalen Smith even chipped in with 16 off the bench. Herter had 11. Dosunmu had 15. All of that is with Isaac Okoro putting up a goose egg in the starting lineup and Buzelis fouling out in 12 minutes. That I wonder what the fastest uh, like time to foul out is in NBA history because it would just be that has to be up there. But I love what the Bulls are doing. So as of right now, I have them at 7. That might be the highest the Bulls get this entire season. But Bulls fans, you're welcome. Number 6, I have none other than the 76ers. Now, me personally, I wanted to put them a lot higher, but I was like, let me temper some expectations here. Got them down at number 6. VJ Edgecombe looking great. The defense at times looking pretty good, but ultimately they had some really close games with the Celtics and the Hornets. Maxey and Edgecombe as the backcourt duo has looked very, very good. We still have not seen Paul George. We still have not seen Trendon Watford or Jared McCain. So we don't know how all of that is going to mesh together all at the same time. So we will still reserve judgment for the full lineup once everyone returns there. Then at 5, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. They did play Sunday and they just lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers 118-113. Giannis put up a 40 piece with 14 rebounds and 9 assists, but ultimately not good enough. And really, the Bucks season is going to come down to the supporting cast around Giannis. Can Gary Trent get back to like that crazy season he had in Portland? Will Miles Turner be able to supply enough in the rebounding and defensive categories and even the 3-point shooting around Giannis? And, like Ryan Rollins and AJ Green getting starting 5 spots, like we're going to have to see, are they going to be consistent enough to really push this team to go into the playoffs and maybe even further? And the bench really isn't all that deep. Taurean Prince, Bobby Portis, Jericho Sims, Amir Coffey, Andre Jackson Jr. There's a lot of stuff there that, we don't know what, like Gary Harris isn't even playing. He got a DNP coach's decision the other night. So no idea what's going to go on with that. And then we have in the 4 spot, the Warriors. The Warriors don't really need an introduction. I mean, they have a great offensive firepower team there. The defense and health are going to be the biggest thing since, like Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, those guys aren't getting any younger. So that's going to be something to watch for them. And then number 3. Now, I originally had the Knicks at number 2 until they lost on Sunday. And I moved them down 1 spot to number 3 because I do like what the Knicks are doing. I'm going to get into a little more detail about them. So I'll just go straight to number 2, which is the San Antonio Spurs. Wembanyama is just downright insane. Dylan Harper looked great in their last game against the Nets. Wembanyama had 31 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 6 blocks with only 2 turnovers. Ridiculous. And Devin Vassell had 16. Stephon Castle had 13. Champagne had 13. Keldon Johnson had 19. Dylan Harper was a ridiculous plus 33 off the bench with 20 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals. Can't ask for much more out of your rookie for that. So, I mean, granted, San Antonio has not played a particularly tough schedule just yet. The Mavericks in their first game, I mean, should have been a tough game, and they beat them 125-92. The Pelicans, they're looking better, but they haven't had time to mesh. They have a lot going on with that team, a lot of new additions. So they did still win that 120-116, and then the Nets are the Nets. They won 118-107. Either way, I have them at number 2 right now. Will they stay at number 2? Not really sure, but They still haven't even De'Aaron Fox hasn't even played yet. So we don't even know the real ceiling of the Spurs. And number one, to no one's surprise, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder after being the only team to go to 2 double overtimes in their first 2 games. Win both of those, they finally win a game in regulation the other night. That one was against the Hawks. They beaten the Rockets, Pacers, and Hawks, all either playoff teams from last season or a team that's expected to get into the playoffs in the Hawks. So all good quality wins for the reigning champs there. And they also haven't even had Jalen Williams, and Caruso missed their last game. AJ Mitchell has been looking amazing off of the bench. So that's like probably the deepest team we've seen in a long, 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 long time. Probably since the Spurs, to be honest with you. The Duncan led Spurs. So yeah, they're staying at number one. They're probably going to stay at number one for a long time. So with that being said, let's jump on into our Atlantic Division analysis here. We're starting off with the Knicks. They beat the Cavs in the home opener 119-111. Then they beat the Celtics 105-95. And then, like I said, they just lost to the Heat 107-115 on Sunday. One of my main concerns is just some of the shooting percentages and the offense right now. Like, other than their game against the Cavs, the offense has sputtered at times. Sometimes it looks like they're just shot chucking a bit out there. I mean, Brunson is averaging 7.5 made field goals to 19 attempted, so he's at 39.5%. Towns is about 5.5 out of 14 per game, and that's 39.3. However, Towns is shooting at the point that I was recording these stats, which was like halfway through that Miami Heat game. Towns was shooting 50% from 3. So 3-point shooting has been amazing, but the rest of the scoring, especially like the inside, getting to the rim, post up, that kind of stuff, that's going to need to be improved. The defense has been good for the most part. I mean, limiting the Cavs, who are a very good team, the number 1 seed last year, limiting them to 111, then limiting the Celtics, albeit the Celtics really aren't that great, limiting them to 95, but then giving up 115 to the Heat, who they have their own struggles too. They have to figure out kind of like their own team now with some of the departures like Jimmy Butler and everything, and seeing which young guys are worth playing, and will Khalil Ware amount to what they hope. So the defense has been decent for the most part. The one thing I do want to point out is that the team camaraderie and the energy, like that seems to be very, very high. I like the fact that the team really seems to be coming together and playing as like one unit, especially with a brand new coach and a brand new I don't want to say like environment and everything, because like a lot of the players are still the same, but it is a big thing changing the coach from like somebody like Tibbs to Mike Brown. So there is a lot going on there. And I'm trying to bring up a picture just to show. Yeah, here we go. So the Knicks have started giving their defensive player of the game a hard hat and Timberlands, which is that's just that's as New York as it gets. And that's just hilarious to me. Like here you can see the guys surrounding OG Anunoby with the hard hat and the Timbs around his neck, and even the safety vest. And then the second game, Jordan Clarkson won defensive player of the game. I mean, it's great for team bonding. This is hilarious, especially just like given how New York this is. It's so funny to me. My big thing with the Knicks is I want to see like the depth really work out for them. I want to see how consistent Jordan Clarkson's going to be, how consistent Yabusele might be for them coming off the bench. When Karl Anthony Towns maybe not be able to play, will they be able to stay afloat? Josh Hart just returned and he's been shaky in his first game or two. So that's something to still watch there as well. And kind of how everything meshes. I do really like how OG Anunoby has played so far. He's looked really good. Mikal Bridges, to me, I want to see like if Mikal Bridges can really get into his rhythms, even though he's not like the first, second, or even third option most nights. So I'm very curious to see that develop as well. Like if I look at this right now, so yeah, OG is averaging 16 points, 7.3 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 2.7 steals. Now, right now, McCall has been very hot shooting. He's shooting 50% from three, 56% from the floor. He's had the fourth most field goal attempts per game. He's putting up around like 10-ish field goal attempts per game. He even has been stuffing the stat sheet. So 5.3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.7 steals, 1.0 blocks, and only 1 turnover a game. Really, really like that a lot from McCallum. If he can keep doing that as sort of the glue guy and let the others like Brunson, Anunoby, Towns, find their rhythm as well, then I think that the Knicks ceiling is really, really high. If like they can just continue to do that, especially if you have Josh Hart coming off the bench, Clarkson, Deuce McBride kind of mixing in there a little bit as well. So I'm very curious to see how that continues. But overall, I like the Knicks. I like what's going on so far. I like the vibes are high, and I just want to see how the next week plays out. So, speaking of higher vibes, the 76ers are 2-0. They beat Boston 117-116 on opening night for them. And then they beat Charlotte 125-121 with a humongous fourth quarter and a Quentin Grimes game-winning bucket to seal the deal. That game was great. If for those who have League Pass, I do recommend you go back and watch that game because it was just fun. I mean, LaMelo Ball hitting crazy shots, Maxey hitting crazy shots, Edgecombe with some great defense, Joel Embiid 20 points in 20 minutes in that game. It gave you really everything minus some of the defense because both teams are they're just getting out and running. But speaking of Joel Embiid, he is still on a 20-minute restriction, and there was a big difference from the opening game to the second game. Now, for those who have watched the Sixers and specifically Embiid, he usually does not do well on the first game of the season. That's just his thing, apparently. He does not really play all that well. He doesn't usually shoot that efficiently. And then the second game, he comes back and he looks like the MVP Embiid. Now, there was a post-game press question about the difference from how he played in game 2 versus game 1, and Embiid did say he would rather play his 20-minute restriction in longer spurts instead of 5 minutes in the first quarter, 5 minutes in the second, 5 minutes in the third, having to sit the other 7 minutes, whatever it is, because he wants to be able to find a rhythm. Now, if you noticed in that game, he didn't play in the fourth quarter because his minutes restriction was hit, and they're really not trying to push it too far and lose him for a bulk of the season. So it I agree with him, to be honest. There's a lot of people that saying like, "Oh, he's a diva, like you can't even stay healthy and blah blah blah." I I completely agree with him in the fact of you do want to find a rhythm. When it comes to basketball, you can't get out there like this is why role players get kind of tossed around teams all the time. If you gave role players the same amount of time that the star players do, a lot of the time you'll see them able to score in bigger amounts as well because all of these guys are some of the best players in the entire world, but also they were the best ones in high school, they were the best ones in college, and they have the ability to do like all of this. But if you're only giving them 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time, a lot of these guys' rhythm is built after getting a couple shots in. Now, not everyone's a volume shooter. You can have 3-point shooters that go out there for every 3 minutes and they can hit a couple threes or whatever. But it's most of the time when you have a not just high volume scorers, but just like big time scorers in general. They need to get those shots up in order to get into their rhythms, like Embiid, even Maxi. If you're only giving Maxi short spurts here and there, he's also not really doing all that much. And people like, Luca and Anthony Edwards and Gilgeous Alexander, like all of these guys you can see get their reps in during the game, and that's what gets them moving. That's what gets them going. So I agree with Embiid on this. I know a lot of people might, criticize that and say, like, no, we need him for the fourth quarter, whatever. Sure. At that rate, then fine, play him in bigger spurts in the second half or something. But at that point in the third quarter, then you kind of have to live with him still getting up to his rhythm and kind of, being slow. I mean, their third quarters are slow as it is, but VJ Edgecombe has been absolutely amazing. I mean, he now has the record for most points in a rookie debut in Sixers history since Wilt Chamberlain, and he also has the most points in the first two games, surpassing Allen Iverson. So huge start from VJ. Love his energy on the defensive end, on top of bringing the athleticism and even more shooting than people expected on the offensive end. I'm very curious to see how this all meshes in with Paul George once he enters the starting five, and then how he could possibly play with Jared McCain when McCain comes off the bench. I think that's going to be very interesting in those non-Maxi minutes. With Maxi and Edgecombe, it's insane because they're both ridiculously fast, both ridiculously athletic, and you can really do a lot of different things against a slower defense. But with McCain, McCain has a very good passing ability on top of his shooting abilities. He's going to force a lot of like second string defenses to pay attention to him, leaving Edgecombe possibly open for lobs and cuts to the rim and even corner threes. So I'm very curious to see how that meshes as well. Really love Dominic Barlow. He's brought the rebounding, defensive, dive on the floor energy that the Sixers desperately have needed in more role players over the past few seasons. They have always been out hustled in that regard, especially it was really on display against the Knicks with Josh Hart just grabbing rebounds over every single Sixers player possible. Unfortunately, he did suffer a pretty bad laceration to his elbow, so he's out for 2 games, but that's neither here nor there. Quentin Grimes, great off the bench. Just like I said, he hit that big game-winning shot against the Charlotte Hornets. I'm curious also about Trendon Watford. Where's he going to fit in? Is he going to play more so over Jabari Walker? Is he going to play more so over Dominic Barlow? I'm kind of curious to see how that works out. Is he not going to be that much in the rotation, at least for a while? It's worth pointing out that Barlow and Walker are both on two-way contracts, so they can only play a certain amount of games in the NBA until they are converted over to standard contracts. So I think that's going to play a big part in where he fits into this whole situation. And then Justin Edwards in the first game. I mean, Justin Edwards, I don't think he even got in the game, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, he did get in the first game, but he only played 6 seconds. So he essentially didn't get in the first game. Did come in the second game, played around 12 and a half minutes, and hit 3 threes. He was 3 for 5. And I mean, he also had 4 fouls, 2 turnovers, and 1 rebound. He ended up being a -5. But my thing is, like, I was excited for Justin Edwards. I thought he was going to turn into a very good contributor for this team, but he looked really bad in preseason. He looked really bad in training camp and also in the summer league. So I'm just very curious kind of how he's going to develop in this situation. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see how he's kind of utilized, but he is a big question mark for me. So, enough about the Sixers. Let's move on to the Toronto Raptors, who are looking pretty frisky over there. I like what the Raptors have going on. They beat Atlanta in their first game, 138-118. Just barely lost to Milwaukee, 116-122. And then I believe I brought up, I'm not sure if I did, but they just lost Sunday to not the Spurs. They play Spurs on Monday. They lost to the Mavericks 139-129. And even in that loss, I mean, Scotty Barnes, 33 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. Brandon Ingram had 22 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. They both shot over 50% from the floor. They both also shot over 50% from 3. And then quickly didn't have a great shooting night. He was 5 for 16, so that contributed to a little bit of the struggles there. And RJ Barrett still shot over 50%, but 16 points. I mean, he was a plus 10 with his time on the floor. And they actually went deep into the bench. They actually went, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people into the bench. So they were really trying to look for sparks in that third quarter when they only had 25 points. That was really what decided the game. They lost that third quarter 39-25 after 32-32 in the first, 34-32 in the second, and 38-36 in the fourth. It was just that third quarter that really lost them the game. But overall, the Mavericks are a very good team. They're expected to be a higher seed in the West. Cooper Flag had a good game. Anthony Davis, good game as usual. PJ Washington had 17 points for them. D'Angelo Russell even put up 24 for them off the bench. So they are a good team, and they don't even have Kyrie Irving yet. But the Raptors, I think this offensive potential for the Raptors is very, very high. I mean, Quickly can score. Scotty Barnes can score. RJ Barrett can score. Brandon Ingram can score. Off the bench is where you start to get a little dicey because some of these guys are they're on the younger side. So you're trying to figure out who's worth throwing in more often than not. Agbaji has some good games and some really bad games. He was a -10 in this game and put up 5 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 steal. Grady Dick has looked pretty good shooting from outside, and in this game got to the free throw line 5 times, but he was a -2, but had 10 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 for 4 from 3, 4 for 5 from the line. Things you like to see. And the young core is great, like the Ingram. To me, I would say the core is Ingram, Barnes, Quickly, because Barrett to me is just too inconsistent to consider him part of the core. And I think that Ingram can do more than RJ Barrett can. Yes, Ingram has had his issues staying healthy, but overall, if you told me I had to pick one of those guys, I would probably take Ingram in this situation. Scotty Barnes, obviously the number one. Quickly is either 2 or 3 because I mean he's the starting point guard there, and I think he can definitely grow into that role. But overall, there's just going to be a lot of growing pains. There's going to be a lot of figuring out, outside of these 4 guys, who else is getting shots? There's not many shots to go around. Like Ingram shot the ball 16 times, Barrett 13, Barnes 24, Quickly 16. The next highest was Sandro Mamu, who put up 8 shots, made 6 of 8. And in the starting 5, Jakob Pertl only played 19 minutes and put up 3 shots. So outside of those 4 guys, if they're not cooking, it doesn't look like the team's going to cook at all. So that's a big thing to look for me. I'm just curious how it's going to shake out. In terms of the bench, if you got like Mamu, even, I mean, Colin Murray Boyles had a rough game, but I think Jamal Shed and Grady Dick should probably be like the first 3 off the bench. And they pretty much had the most minutes, other than Agbaji did get 22. He had some flashes the last couple seasons, but I'm not sure if he had consistent enough to stay there. So we'll see. And then we get to the Nets. I'm going to talk to Dennis and Mike about this probably on our Wednesday episode that comes out, but they're rough, man. I mean, they have some offensive moments that can be fun, but overall, the team is rough. The defense is really bad. They lost to Charlotte in their first game, 117-136. Then they lost to Cleveland, 124-131. And then they lost to San Antonio, 107-118. So the San Antonio game was the least they've given up at 118. The defense is pretty much non-existent. Their defensive rating is ranked last. I remember, I mean, at one point, Claxton was like a defensive player of the year candidate, and with the people around him now, he doesn't look like he's anywhere close. Michael Porter Jr. has actually, I'm not gonna lie, Michael Porter Jr. has looked pretty efficient so far in his first few games. If I'm Brooklyn, I'm showcasing Porter Jr. as much as I can, and then selling him for as high a price as possible. Um, Shooting 44% from the floor, 38.5% from three, effective field goal percentage of 53.8. He's put up 19.7 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal a game, not even a turnover a game. Hasn't gotten the line much, but also that's not exactly his game. So, I mean, hey, if he can stay healthy and he can just keep putting up numbers similar to this, I think you could definitely trade him to a contender. The main issue you're going to have is obviously the contract. This year he's set to make 38.3 million, and then next year he's set to make 40.8 million. So that's going to be your biggest issue trading to a contender is the tax aprons, especially with a 40.8 million guaranteed. Actually, that is partially guaranteed. I'm not sure the exact um terms of that, but it's partially guaranteed. So I should correct that. But hey, a contending team could definitely want something like this. Just saying. Outside of that, Igor has some solid stat lines, but he's been fouling a lot. Jalen Wilson, I guess, has fallen out of favor in Brooklyn. I know he had some nice moments last year, but he's only played in 2 of the 3 games, 15 minutes a game. He is shooting 66%, but it's only like on 4.5 attempts per game. He really doesn't have much outside of points. He has 8.5 points a game and then 0.5 rebounds, 0.5 assists, 1 turnover per game. So really not contributing much outside of scoring, which could partially be why he's not playing as much. But I think Zaire Williams definitely should get some more minutes. He has had some intriguing moments so far, and I think he can definitely be part of something moving forward, at least a role player of some sorts for Brooklyn. He's only 24 years old, so I think he's one to watch there. And yeah, I mean, that's really about it. Cam Thomas had one big game. Again, Cam Thomas doesn't contribute much outside of points either. So their current assist leader is Michael Porter Jr. That's pretty bad. And so that takes us down to the Boston Celtics. I mean, hey, Boston. Maybe it's a gap year. Maybe it's a year that you guys say, you know what? Everyone's hurt. We lost a lot of guys. Let's go get a top pick and call it a year and come back next year. I mean, they haven't looked terrible. Don't get me wrong. I don't think the Celtics have looked like awful, but 0-3 isn't great. Lost by a point to the Sixers in the opener, lost by 10 to the Knicks in their second game, lost to the Pistons 113 to 119, and then their third game of their road trip starts Monday against the Pelicans. But yeah, I mean, the assist leader now is Peyton Pritchard at 4 assists per game. Ball's not really moving all that much. They're averaging 108 points per game, only 17 assists per game as a team, and only 39 rebounds per game. Not great for the Celtics. The defense has been solid at times, but the offensive rating is ranked 25th so far in the league. Derek White was jacking up all sorts of shots. On average, he's shooting 6 for 19 from the field goal from the court floor, and 3.5 for 12 from 3-point. He's chucking threes, and it's not working out. If the team is going to work, they need Anthony Simons, Sam Hauser, and Keita to all be very consistent. Keita has given you like decent stats. Like 9.7 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, shooting 70% from the floor. But I mean, outside of the game against Philly, he had 17 points against Philly. He's been like above average, which I mean, if that's all you need for out of him, then sure. But that's not really going to get you very far, especially without Tatum and things like that. Like depth is a big issue for this team because not only are you without Jason Tatum, but you again lost Drew Holiday, you lost Al Horford, like the team that like that won the championship and a lot of these guys that contributed a lot are gone. Kristaps Porzingis, he's also gone. So now it's just a lot of guys that they're kind of like seeing if they have a diamond in the rough type of thing here. And so far, Hugo Gonzalez, maybe. I mean, he's started in the one game, played in 2 games. He's averaging only 3 points, 2.5 rebounds, 2 steals. But yeah, as far as it look like, I'm gonna have to watch a little bit more of the Celtics. But as far as it looks to me, it's looking like a gap year. And so that's it for the Atlantic Division. And the last thing we just have to talk about here is this whole gambling, illegal gambling, poker games. Chauncey Billups arrested, and Terry Rozier arrested, and former coach Damon Jones arrested. And so, according to ESPN, this all worked in a very crazy way. Now, I think Rozier was kind of separate. He was more of illegal sports betting and like betting some of his unders. And there was one game in particular he left with a very fishy foot injury that didn't seem right. And he kind of just like they showed the clip where he pulled a turnaround jumper from the mid range, and he kind of like went back on defense, looked perfectly fine. Then there was a timeout, and he kind of grabbed his foot, and then he was out. And then we never really heard about him again. So, and that was when he was with the Hornets. So that was a while ago. But as far as the gambling, like the poker games, Chauncey Billups was a big part of this. And so this is an ESPN article, and they're saying that the scheme started with the technology, which was in the card shuffling machines, which could actually read the order in which the cards were dealt and relayed the information to an offsite person. And then sometimes the games even had x-ray tables and or hidden cameras in the poker chip tray to help read the cards. And then also on top of that, players would also occasionally wear special contact lenses or glasses that would allow them to see the marked cards. This was an elaborate scheme. And it said, so there was an example where defendant John Mazzola would play quarterback, and if he had the best hand, he would tap his arm or his wrist. If another inside player, meaning somebody who was also like in the scam, if they had the best hand, then Mazzola touched his $1,000 chip, and so on and so forth. And if the guy that they're trying to scam money out of had the best hand, he would touch his black chips, indicating to the other players in the scam to fold. Like this just seemed crazy. And sometimes they would let the person win, so they weren't really catching on to everything. And they would sometimes lure people into these games using bigger names like Chauncey Billups. They're going to be like, hey, Chauncey Billups is playing in this poker game. Like, you should come play too. And the same concept was evolved when Billups and Damon Jones were involved, except it looks like there was an extra layer, it says, since they had a bigger, name and celebrity. And it looks that like one of the defendants texted their group saying that Billups and another player had won 2 improbable hands. Gut shot on the river or a straight draw, needing to hit a middle card to make his hand against the same player. And it looked like people acted like they wanted Chauncey to have his money because he was starstruck. There was, and then all of this also ties into somehow the presence of the mafia. Like it says, the presence of the mafia involved providing support and protection, often merging its own existing illegal high stakes poker games, which are not necessarily rigged, into the scheme. And that's also where some of the betting on the unders and stuff came from, which is where Terry Rozier comes into play. It is insane. I like, I just don't. This and this apparently is going on for years and years, this whole investigation. And I just think it like, look, I don't know about the poker games and Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones, but Terry Rozier did it. Like he just completely vanished off the face of the earth ever since that fake foot injury. So I kind of believe he did it. Now everything's alleged. Like I'm not saying that anyone has been proven guilty, but it it looks guilty. I'm just gonna say that much because where has Rozier been since then? He hasn't done a single thing in the league, and then he went to Miami, and he has been terrible in Miami. And I think he's actually doing Miami a favor if he gets wiped off the book, so that they can get somebody that can actually contribute on the court. So, man, if this is how the whole year is gonna go, I think we're in for a fun ride. But that is it here for me this week. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We are everywhere you get your podcast: Spotify, Apple, Google, literally everywhere. Also here on YouTube. So thank you for those who watch. Please subscribe, like, let us know if there are some things that we missed or if there's some things that you were like, hey, I never knew that before. Appreciate all of you. And we will catch you guys on Wednesday with another episode. See you then. Peace.